Okay guys, so by now you should have your wrist on. It should be kind of smoothed out. You should have a little bit of a coil on the base, which we can take off later if you want to. We should have our thumb, and the wrist should also be hollowed out, okay? I've put a little bit of the details in, not a lot. I'm sure I'll have to go back and refine all of this stuff. So now we're kind of moving on, and we need to start putting on our fingers, okay? Remember, we're using our own fingers kind of as a model, but they're gonna be just a little bit bigger. So you can kind of see this finger compared to my finger, okay? So I wanna kind of demo that. So this is actually the clay that was on the inside of my wrist. So I'm just gonna take this and kind of get a piece, and I've already re-wedged it. Make sure that your surface is kind of cleaned up. If it's kind of dry, you can add some water to it. Mine is actually really, really wet still. It's very plastic. My hands are dry though, so I'm gonna wet my hands. And I like to start by rolling it in between my hands to start, just to get the initial shape. And then once I've kind of got the initial shape, then I can go down to the table and kind of roll it out. And I'm doing kind of a rolling motion. I kind of start at one end and go across. It's like I'm stretching it. I'm not pushing super hard either. If you push really hard, then it tends to flatten out. And we are gonna flatten it a little bit, but we don't wanna flatten it too much. Scoot this over so you can see what I'm doing. Oops. Okay, I don't wanna get it too thin. So this is my first finger, and this is going to be my middle finger, which is a little bit longer. So that looks about perfect, actually. Remember again that your fingers are not like these round balls. They're actually a little bit flat. So I'm just gonna flatten it out just a little bit. Give it a little bit of a bend. I like to divide it into the 3 sections, so I kind of know where all of that stuff is. And kind of make sure that you have it right. They're all lined up. You could go ahead and do it to the back if you want. We are eventually going to do that. And then remember, we're going to be putting this kind of on the back of the hand. So we need kind of like this flat area right here that we're gonna cut off so that we can slip and squirt on there. And then we're gonna take this extra clay and kind of smear it in. So you can use your plastic knife or a kitchen knife. I'm gonna use my fettling knife. And again, I'm kind of cutting this at an angle. So this is the front right here. I'm gonna roll it over on its side, and I'm gonna cut it at an angle. Okay. And what's great about that is I get this nice flat plane, and that gives me a lot of surface area to attach to my hand. If I don't have a lot of surface area, then you know, it's probably gonna fall off. And I wanna make sure that I have it the right length. And it should be just a little bit taller than my my index finger. So to me, it's a little bit, see if you can see, it looks a little too long to me, not quite the same as mine. So I'm gonna take just a little bit more off. And we'll see now. And now that looks good. It's just a tiny bit taller than my middle finger, than my index finger, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of gently stick that on there and move that out of the way, and then I'm gonna do the other 2. Now the other 2 fingers are smaller, okay? So you do, like these 2 are about the same size, this one's just a little bit longer, but these 2 are smaller, so we need to start making sure that we roll them a little bit smaller now. So I'm gonna use a little bit less clay. Again, my clay's really sticky, but my hands are very dry, so my hands are kind of drying it out a little bit. So just starting it off, my hands, and then I'm gonna go ahead and bring it down to the table. If it flattens out like that, just kind of flattened out a little bit, I'll bring it back up on its side, kind of push it down a little bit, and then start rolling again. And again, I'm just kind of working my way across, trying to get it the same thickness all the way across, except for maybe the top will be a little bit thinner. Again, this one should be a little bit smaller, so it's still about the same size, so I need to go a little bit smaller. Okay, let's see now. That looks pretty good now. Okay. So that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. So I just have it up here. I'm just gonna make a little mark so I know where to cut it. Then I can take this off, and there's my little mark. And then that kind of shows me where I should angle it. And then again, I'm gonna put my kind of 3 sections in there. So I have all that done. Yeah, and then that looks pretty good. To me, it looks like maybe my index finger is a little bit too big. So I might go and roll that one out a little bit more, but I'm gonna go ahead and do the pinky first. That's what's good about not attaching them until you get them all done. And you can kind of look at them and judge like, oh, okay, yeah, this one's too big or this one's too little. And that looks pretty good for my pinky too. Flatten it out just a little bit. I am going to make a little mark so I know where to cut it. Again, I'm cutting it at an angle. I'm gonna make my little divisions here. Just shaping it a little bit. Okay, and I'm gonna take this one off, get it a little bit wet, and I'm gonna roll it a little bit more because it looks too big now compared to the rest of them. Okay. That looks way better. So make my little divisions. It's a little bit flat. I think now that I've stretched it a little bit, I have to cut a little bit more off. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so now we get to the part where we have to slip and score. So it is going to be important that you slip these. You don't want to just smear them in because at this point your clay should be a little bit set up. So you're going to need your slip. We're trying to get something to stick on there really well. So you really want to score it well. Remember, go in different directions. So I'm going to do each one of these, and then I'm going to do the back of the hand. Remember, if you go in different directions, it really makes the clay like Velcro, and it just sticks on there really, really good. If you just go in one direction, it'll stick a little bit, but it doesn't do as well as really going in different directions. It just makes a big difference. So I go all in one direction, and then I'm gonna go back and go in the other direction. And I'm gonna get some of this gooey slip down here. Be checking your slip, make sure that it's not getting too dry and all that good stuff. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Oops, so now we're gonna start putting these fingers on. So I'm just gonna kind of push it up against there, and then I'm gonna take some of this clay that's right here on the hand and the palm of the hand, I'm gonna smear it up. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing on the back. I'm gonna take some of this clay that's on the finger and smear it down. And that's gonna give it a little bit of support, and then we'll go back and we'll put a coil there too. But this at least holds it on for right now. Okay, so again, I'm taking some of this clay that's on the palm and I'm smearing it up. Just using the back of my fingernail, but you could use the spoon too. The spoon kind of does the same thing. It's just sometimes it makes some little marks, so. Get this all smeared out. Do some little touch-ups while I'm at it. Okay, moving on. Okay, same thing, use my fingernail, take a little bit of this clay and smear it up. If you happen to get a big dent there, and like just this little bit of clay on the edge of the palm is not enough, you could put a coil there. That wouldn't, as long as you smear it out really well, that's not gonna really hurt anything. go in between the fingers a little bit. And I also have a paintbrush here. Just kind of do a little touch up. So even like right there, there's kind of a little dent right there where the pinky is. So I think I'm just gonna add a little bit just to kind of fill it in and to make sure it's nice and secure on there. Sometimes you lose that kind of little line in between the fingers. I want to make sure I get that. To me, it kind of goes in right here a little too much too. So I'm going to take a little bit of this clay and just kind of smear it up on the side. Usually your pinky is down just a little bit lower. This one's up a little too high, but that's kind of where it lined up. So now I just have to kind of mess with the palm of my hand. Change it a little bit. Okay, now I can flip it over. Preferably if you have some towels or something that you can lay this on so it doesn't warp it all out of shape. That would be best. Just getting everything nice and neat. Okay, and then, you know, kind of look at your hand a little bit too. Let me switch here. And notice how it kind of dips in right here, and my hand actually doesn't do that. It actually kind of pops out right here because this is where my knuckles are. And then you have this part of your finger too. So we definitely have some adding that we need to do. I'm just gonna smear it out a little bit. Let's see, I think I'll put this spray bottle here just to give it a little support. Go in between these fingers. And now I'm going to add a coil right in here. And again, that's kind of this portion right here. We'll go back in and we'll kind of relief that a little bit. But right now it kind of sinks in, and that's not really what your hand looks like. So do a little scoring right in here. Add myself another little coil. This time I'm gonna flatten the coil out because I don't want this huge bump. I'm just kind of filling in a little bit. Okay. And you could use a spoon for this. You might be able to use the rib tool. I don't know, I kind of feel like it would be too big, but maybe not. Worth a try. I'll pull this out. Oops. Just smearing this in really good. You want it to look nice and natural, no lumps or bumps. Same thing going up into the fingers. That looks pretty good. Okay, and again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. And I'm actually going to use my loop tool, and I'm going to take a little bit out. Just so we get that nice roundness of the fingers, which by me putting that kind of coil, I flattened it out a little bit. Just a little bit, not much. Okay, and then I can get in here with my paintbrush and kind of do a little bit of smoothing. Okay. All right, so next thing is we kind of need to figure out what position we want our hand. I mean, is it gonna be just like that, or is it gonna be like that, or this? Mine is going to be kind of like this, like holding a cell phone. So I'm gonna put mine into position. If your hand feels kind of dry and you're afraid it's going to crack and break, you might want to wrap it in some paper towels before you do this, just to kind of rehydrate it. So again, it's going to be like this. So the biggest thing that I'm moving is this thumb. And I'm really going to have to kind of warp it out of shape a lot, but that's okay. It's clay, remember? We can always go back and change it and all that good stuff. So my hands are going to be kind of like this. So they're going to be together. And my thumb should be down lower. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just kind of looking at it from different views and stuff. Okay, so I get that like little bump right there. So I'll have to go in and put that in. And then there's kind of like some skin right here. If you guys can see, put it right here. So there's kind of like some skin right there. So I'm gonna have to add a little bit right there. That's close though. Okay, so I'm gonna do some smearing. I'm just kind of looking at my, it's hard to show you. So I'm kind of looking at whenever I put my thumb like this, like I've got this pad of skin that kind of sticks out. So I'm gonna have to add some more right there because just from me kind of pushing and moving it, I kind of warped it out of shape. So again, since I'm adding, I'm going to score, and then I'm gonna add a tiny little bit right here too. And just anytime, you know, you're adding on clay to something that is kind of thick anyways, because we only could hollow it out so much, really make sure that you push it down well. You want to smear it out really well. The last thing we want to do is trap an air bubble in there. Okay, so again, I get kind of some little lines, some wrinkles right here. So I'm going to show some of that. And I always show stuff like really kind of harsh and drastic looking, and then I go back and kind of mellow it out by smoothing over it or taking a paintbrush over it. Okay, same thing. I get like a real thin, kind of like a little bit of clay right there where there's the skin. So I'm literally just gonna take a coil and then I'm gonna flatten it out. And then I'm just gonna kind of stick it, I'm just trying to see, like it looks like it goes back in here. Sorry, it's so hard to show you. So I'm gonna try to show that. And I just kind of keep looking at my, I don't want to say picture because it's not a picture. Keep looking at my hand. Okay, and this is probably too much. I'm gonna have to cut it down, but it's the right idea. It's kind of what I'm going for. So I'm gonna smear it in, and then I'll take something and kind of cut it down. So let me look at it again. Okay, so then we're gonna go on to more details and stuff on the next video, but at least that kind of gets us in the shape, at least the shape I'm going for. So I want you guys to kind of get it in the shape that you're going for, okay?